KLOL Houston 101, and now we're going to get into this. We're very pleased to air at this time a taped interview with George Harrison. Listening time is 30 minutes if you want to record it. The way this whole thing came about, which is kind of unusual because George Harrison has not been prone to do radio interviews, but it just kind of became a social thing, and he called Levi on the phone Tuesday morning like that to do a phone interview, and Levi didn't believe that it was really George. So he said, if you're George Harrison, just come on down here and show me. Well, he did, and due to Levi's surprise and excitement, the first portion of the interview was not recorded. It's about an hour and a half thing altogether that went on. But what we do have is perhaps the best of it. Now, it's all the commercials and other normal programming features have been edited out because the thing was going on during Levi's show. So here's George Harrison and Levi.
George, don't tell me exactly how much money you got.
I haven't got a clue.
Huh?
It would be easier to ask Internal Revenue because they seem to have it all. You see, it depends. If you're talking about how much have I got in my pocket, how much have I got personally in the bank, that is my money that I paid tax on, how much money is in the company that I own a bit of. I tell you one thing. You heard about the Beatles partnership thing when Paul McCartney
Right. Is that true?
What happened there? Yeah. This is to give you an idea of how silly the whole concept of money is, because, you live in the place, Texas. You can go in a pawn shop here and buy a millionaire for about $10, can't you? Oil millionaire. That's what they told me. Anyway, Paul sued John Ringo and I because he didn't like Alan Klein, who we got to manage Apple. And in the meantime, since then, we've all got rid of Alan Klein. But because of Paul's court action, the court decided until we clear it up among ourselves and our advisors, then all the money from now on, which was actually 3 or 4 years ago, goes into what's called a receivership. That is, there's somebody appointed by the law court. So, there's a guy appointed by the court called a receiver, and all the money goes to him until we settle it. He won't even give us the money to pay the tax, even though he's appointed by the court, who is run by the government, who also runs the tax. But in that, the last I heard in there was $40 million.
In the company itself?
No, that's in the Beatle receivership, $40 million. But out of that, you see, the longer it goes on, we probably will owe $20 million of the dollars to the lawyers and the accountants and the, Queen's Counsel, and we even have to pay the receiver.
Yeah.
It's silly. And then we have to, if we ever got it solved out there, then we'd end up, say, with 20 or 30 million out of that left. Then we have to pay the tax, which is sort of like super tax, which is, it's ordinary tax plus surtax, they call SUR, and then super tax. So we end up, owing them money. We'd be lucky out of that. So really, the point of it is, there's a lot of money about, but it all is owned by somebody else in a way, Okay. The best thing the Beatles did was buy Savile Row, which was Apple, because it's the only freehold building 2 seconds away from the central London, Piccadilly. And we own that building, and, all it is now is a hole in the ground, because it was pulled down to extend, and then we never extended it. But that is the only thing we actually did that was, apart from songwriting and stuff, which is like an investment. On paper, people talk about, I say I'm a millionaire.
Right.
Okay, some people have got $1 million in cash, some people have got $1 million on paper. I don't know. I know I haven't got $1 million in cash, but on paper I could probably come up with a couple of million, and not dollars either, pounds. But that's all on paper, which is assets.
Okay, right.
Assets, but it's all gross, no taxes being paid. And, because when we were set up in the partnership that we've been trying to get out of, it was set up in a way that if we earn $10 million in America, after the American government taxes, what's left that comes back, we get taxed like 95%. Out of £1 million, if I had £1 million in a company for earning, say, songwriting, if I wanted to get that money for myself, then to pay all the taxes and all this and that on it, I'd end up with 80,000 and the government would have 920,000 pounds. So because we were set up when we were kids in a situation where we paid maximum for everything.
How old are you, George?
31.
When did you guys really start?
Well, I met Paul when I was 12. He must have been 13. I met him because he went to the same school as I, and we both lived near each other and took the same bus ride. I met John because a guy in the same class as Paul was a friend of John's, and John, who was I think a year older than Paul, he happened to be going the place next door to the school Paul and I went, which was the art college. And so, I mean, it was around, from when I was about 12, I knew Paul. Paul, I think, met John when he must have been about 15, 16, and I was about 15. I met John as soon as Paul met him, or more or less a week or two after. And that was it, really.
You want to tell me something real quick, and then I'm going to break for a spot about all that mess. They were trying to put one of your comrades out of the country for drugs.
Save John. Well, that's silly because, I mean, it's on the simple level or on just a truthful level. There's a guy now in England who used to be in Scotland Yard drug squad, and his name used to be Sgt Chief Inspector, I think, Norman Pilcher. And he's now serving 6 years in jail for planting dope on people. And it came in the appeal courts when he tried to put a Pakistan family, and all the kids, the whole family, he tried to jail them. I mean, because of whatever reason, must have been some personal thing. Anyway, this was Pakistanis, and he tried to jail them all, and he'd planted dope on them. And anyway, it went to the appeal court, and it was, in the meantime, he left Scotland Yard and tried to emigrate to Australia. By the time he got to Australia, there was an extradition, and he stepped off the boat in Australia, and they flew him right back and put him in jail for 6 years, and he's now in jail for planting dope on people. Now, he happened to be the same guy who planted dope on me and John Lennon. Look, the point is, being a famous Beatle, you're not going to come to a famous Beatles house with 14 cops and dogs and all kinds of things to search the house for marijuana and leave there and say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, we made a mistake. That decision is made that we are guilty before they even left Scotland Yard, if you know what I mean. I mean, that's not to say that we haven't in our day, smelt the smell of marijuana.
Right.
But I mean, it's so silly. The thing about that was a plant. And I remember my lawyer, I said, come on, that was not mine. I don't go hiding dope in shoes under cupboards.
Right.
And it was the biggest slab of hash I've ever seen. I've never even seen it until he had it there, and he had all this stuff out, polyfiller and incense and stuff, all wrapped up and sealed and signed.
Very neatly packaged.
And anyway, he thought he was Oliver Cromwell, and he wasn't, and the point was, my lawyer, I said, look, I'm going in that court, and I'm saying that he planted it on me, because he did, and that's the truth. And he said, look, man, if you say that, they're going to be after you so hard, they're going to come down so hard on you. Look, you can afford the fine. Just say you're guilty. Just pay your fine,
right.
say, and then forget it. Because if you don't, they're going to cause so much trouble for you. So I went along with my lawyer's advice, not realizing that something like that gave me all the trouble of trying to get into America, Because America, the American embassy sent for, when it came in the paper the next day, that I'm convicted of that.
Okay,
they sent for my visa and they stamped it out. Now I'm fortunate to be able to come back here when I can apply for a visa. But I mean, really, John Lennon and myself, we'd like to be able to come and go when we like. I mean, we're not bad. Yeah.
You're whispering over there, George.
I'm just whispering because I got a few things I'd like to play, and You know, when you said it's 1 o'clock, I just realized, God, I've got to get to bed now. I'm on the road.
No one ever sleeps in Houston, Texas.
Well, yeah, but we've got to be in
We'll keep
Baton
you-
Rouge any minute. Anyway, what was
No,
the
the
question?
influence.
Okay,
The
I don't know.
Beatles, so
Whatever
powerful.
it-
I mean, everybody, you know, it's like
whatever
you
it
started the whole
is or
thing.
was or could be, I don't know. But whatever it is now for me, all I would just like to do is just try and promote a little bit of happiness. I mean, I've never
is
been
that
so, no,
come
I mean,
on,
listen,
George.
I've never been so happy in all my life as I am now.
Yeah, well, you're rich, you know, and
You know, rich is nothing to do with it. I mean, if I gave you all the money there was in
Yeah.
the world, you'd probably be dead in a week. Maybe.
no, I wouldn't.
Where would you be?
Bet you.
Okay. How happy are you, eh?
How happy am I? I'll tell you something, George. For the first time in my life, I've really been able to buy a few material things, and I'm happy. Love it.
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, I can dig the idea of money. That's so awful to me. It's so, I mean, the idea...
But if you were broke and starving, it wouldn't be.
I know, but then if everybody did a little bit and gave a little of what they have, then there wouldn't be nobody in the world who's broke and starving, because there is enough on this planet for everybody. There's not just enough, there's abundance. It's just that it happens to all be held up by greedy people, and they have, like Buckminster Fuller, who could tell them where to ship the stuff. One place you got too much of something, some other place they haven't got anything. You know, it's a matter of coordination between world powers in order to make it. Because, I mean, I'm certainly doing my best to try and give a little bit here and there wherever I can. So, I mean, the point is, if everybody did give a little, there wouldn't be no starvation and no poverty or sickness. I tell you one thing, there's sickness going on, and there's some good people doing work in hospitals, but they got no bread to do it on. Not only are they working in a miserable condition with sick people, but they're scraping the barrel for funds to keep going.
When you meet people with money, they have this utopia attitude.
Well, some do, some don't.
You know,
some
and
don't.
I'm
I
just
tell
trying
you,
to-
you know, you can meet people, and I've met a lot of people who's been rich and who's been famous and all this and that.
Mhm.
And I'm fortunate to have got to the point where I just meet people. Whatever they think they are, whatever they would like to be, whoever they really are, I just meet them and see them like I saw you, man. I just look
Yeah.
at you.
That's
I don't have to know you to know you. I mean, you know, you represent to me, you know, whatever twinkle comes through your eyes. I mean, that's your richness to me.
well.
You know, I've seen a lot of rich people who's just tied up in pain inside.
Well, I have to believe you, and not because you're saying it, but because you kind of did it.
Because it's the truth.
Right, because you practiced what you preached, you know. You're real dude, George. George, you want to tell us a little bit about Ravi?
Ravi,
Huh?
yeah.
Why don't
Sure.
you? Fine album.
It's a pity you missed the show last night, because Ravi, you know, it's like concepts. It all gets down again to concepts. That really part of the thing that I'd like to do is change the concept that all we are in our lives is whatever we were last seen being, right?
Right.
Which was either Beatles or whatever. Ravi, now, he's spent years and years doing one-night stands after spending 10 years of learning an instrument and mastering an instrument by practicing 18 hours a day for 10 years. And he masters an instrument which is obscure. Then he spends the next 15 years doing one-night stands, trying to, you know, get the music of India, classical music across. And now he's got a great audience all around the world, from Russia right through the, you know, Far East, and it's still in India. I've seen him blow the top musicians right off the stage. Right round Europe and America, he's got a good audience.
Uh-huh.
But he's had a lot of criticism, like everybody who does anything gets. And I have too, and to the point where now all we want to do is just do what we feel, you know. And so, if you were at the show last night, then, you know, there's a situation where it's like trying to sneak Ravi in the back door, which we've been doing since the beginning of the tour, but it blows out the audience. The audience have never, you know, had an opportunity ever to see all these musicians, like 16 musicians, all the top Indian musicians, all rocking like mad. And if you want the blues or rock
They play
or
it all.
jazz, that's there, and it's too much.
So you wouldn't put a lid on his music?
So what
You
I'm
wouldn't.
saying now, this new album of Ravi's that I produced, Shankar Family and Friends, and Tommy Scott's playing on it too, with Emma Richards and all these Indian musicians. It's something else. You know, if people have seen him, whether they've liked it or disliked it, playing sitar, it's nothing to do with that, really. It's like, you know, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, or whatever. He's a composer, and he's composing music, which nobody's doing.
How did you stumble upon these people?
I didn't, you know, the Lord made me stumble into Ravi Shankar in about 1966. I don't know, it's too, I can't begin to understand it. But whatever happened, I met him, and there was something about him I knew, and when I first heard his music, I knew it, even though my intellect didn't. And he sort of seemed to know me back, and I've just, you know, our relationship has been more and more sort of crazy or magical or become so strong. And, you know, I just don't want to go nowhere without Rob, because he's been a blessing in my life. He's given me, or I've received so much through my relationship with him. It's the same with, like, Tommy Scott and this people in the band, like Billy Preston, man. Billy Preston, I just love him. I never want to play in another band without Billy. I mean, I hope I don't ever have to, because it just, by being in the presence of those people, not only as people, but then when you get into music, you know, I mean, Ravi Shankar, whether he plays just classical or composes stuff like this, which is really like something else, complete, refreshing, different thing. But even, you know, I mean, if he plays straight sitar, I mean, I hear in that all the Robert Johnsons, all the Duane Allmans, and the B.B. Kings, and Albert Kings, and the Eric Claptons, and all, whoever's ever gassed anybody on any string instrument, I hear it pouring out of Ravi's sitar and more, and just on his own it sounds like an orchestra, because the sitar is such an amazing instrument.
He's a fantastic artist.
He's just unbelievable, man. And as a person, I tell you, he's, you know, he's great. He, you know, people think of him as a silly little Indian classical musician, but, you know, he's a tiny man, but he's a giant. I mean, he checks everything out. He goes to all the movies, all the plays, reads all the books. He meets all the musicians and all the people, everybody. He's just interested. He's so into life. You know, he feels so much a part of life and what's going on. He's traveled around the world more times than, you know, than that sort of Sputnik.
All right, we're going to get into a track off of Mr. Harrison's brand new album.
The album.
What's it called?
The album's called Dark Horse. But it's, it's on Apple, and it's called Dark Horse, but it also happens to be the name of the new record company with Splinter, The Place I Love, which is the new single by Splinter, and I Am Seeing You by Ravi Shankar Family and Friends. But this one on my album, called Dark Horse, is a track, it's on a cassette, you see, so we had to make it may be a poor quality because it's not the real thing yet. But I thought, as it's the track on the new tour that we're on at the moment, that I'm playing, then we play that one. It's called Maya Love, M-A-Y-A. Maya, it is a Sanskrit word which translated means that which is not. So Maya Love is something which is I love you if, I love you when, I love you but. It's the type of love that comes and goes, which we do tend to give to one another.
Maya love.
It means the cosmic illusion. Somebody here knows, you see. It's the cosmic. It's like saying you take a flower. It's made out of petals, and it's made out of leaves, and it's made out of the stem and all the little bits. But if you take the petals, it's made out of sap, and the leaves are made out of sap, and everything. It's all made out of sap. So the sap's the cause, and the effect is the petals and the leaves, right? You follow me?
Yes, George, I'm with you,
So
man.
then love, which is like the day or the night, or up or down, or in or out, or rich or poor, or black or white, love based upon the duality. That is, I love you when you do this, or I love you when it's, summer, or I love you if, you smile at me, or I love you but, you're, foreign.
Someone's
It's rewinding, somebody's spooling back.
somebody's
But
yeah.
you know what I mean? That Maya is the illusion that it isn't all the one thing, really.
Yeah.
That which is not.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. I understood 10% of what you said.
Well,
But
maybe if you spool back and play the tape.
but that's a heavy track
Well, thank you.
that's-
It's Billy Preston, who's a gas, and I love him.
on keyboard.
Billy Preston on electric piano. Willie Weeks on bass. Andy Newmark, who played with Sly. And Tommy on drums, and Tommy Scott on horns, and I'm on guitar. And
Who's that singing?
that's me.
Oh, okay. No, it's
I
just-
think you did the harmonies.
I did the harmony.
Levi. I tell you, I've been sitting here half an hour now, and he still hasn't given me a pair of jeans.
Oh, come on, man. That's
My name is Smoke Too Much. Mr. Smoke Too Much. Oh, you better cut down a little. Okay, I tell you one thing. If anybody out there listening to the big time radio station ever hears the name Monty Python's Flying Circus, that's the funniest thing, man, in England. I mean, it'll only take them a couple of months to catch, I mean, it's really funny. There's a few things in it that is English, but then as soon as they've got enough money to get a plane ticket to New York, they'll soon hit you with the American version of the humor, but they're so far out there, fantastic. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
George, what do you want to say to the folks before we wrap it up?
It's nice. I like just surprising myself.
It was fun.
And people like you.
Yeah.
And the main
I mean,
thing-
just think, me, a poor
Well,
black
I-
boy from Orange
I
County.
think I'm a poor white boy from Liverpool.
I'm sitting here with George. I'm calling you by your first
I'm a
name.
lumberjack. Just
I'm calling you by your first name, man. George.
It's a good job I'm got a second name.
Hey, do you like that name, man?
I know.
George.
I don't mind
That's
Harrison.
common, man.
I don't
know?
mind. Well, it's probably because when I was born, the King
George.
of England was called King
George.
George. And they
George.
call me King George. Like they call somebody the same name as their dad.
But I guess when you tack the Harrison onto it,
I like the Harrison because
That
I
takes
found
away it
out,
all.
Krishna, what I tell you about Krishna is a name of God. Now, he's got a lot of names, Jehovah. Some people call him Jehovah. Some people call him, like, Christ's dad. And some people call him Buddha. And some people call him Allah.
right?
And some people call him Ram. Some people call him Krishna. Just the one, there's the one truth underlies all the religions. And anybody who fights each other in the name of religion doesn't know what religion really is, because it's the truth, and the truth underlies them all. So I suppose what I'd really like to say is just call him, if you call him Christ, just say, Om Christ, Om Christ, Om Christ, Om. Or if you call him Krishna, just say Krishna, 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 Krishna. Or Buddha, 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 Buddha. Because there's no difference in him and his name, you see. So you just say the name and he'll come to you. And if you say Krishna, 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 Krishna long enough,
Right.
then whether you believe in it or not, it's just the actual sound vibration that is contained within any of the names of God. It's a very subtle thing, you see. Krishna, 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 Christ, 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 Christ. It's the sound. So you just say Krishna, 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 and he'll come to you, and he's very subtle, and suddenly you'll find that you're really probably richer than I'll ever be, Levi.
Oh, you're back on the money thing. No,
No,
George, wait.
because that's it, that's it.
Okay, but wait, George, before you go, no, now, the only reason that I got into the money thing is because, so many people, George.
You've been watching the producers, you know.
Well, no, they want to know, like,
Long,
I
shiny
sit.
limousines,
I sit-
gold cigarette cases, elegant ladies with long legs.
But,
all
money's
you
the
need
root of
is
all evil.
money, Levi. Money is
Wait,
honey.
let me finish. This is what I was saying. Like so many people sit out there and they see people on talk shows and on television and on radio shows, and a lot of people out there say, I wonder how rich is he?
The money.
Money's nothing, I know, right?
Money is the root of all evil. Do you remember that?
Money's nothing, but you're worth 4 or 5 mil, so what do you know?
Well, I tell you what, if I had it in my pocket, I'd give it to you if it would make you happy.
You're saying that, George, but you don't mean it.
Well, I just don't have
This is
to.
on tape,
I don't
Harrison.
even, okay.
I got
But if
you on...
I had it in my pocket, which I don't,
101 is
actually, I
bugged.
don't even have a nickel in my pocket. That money is, you should use it for what you really need.
Buying
but
sugar.
then, what do you really need? And what you
Things
really
like that.
need is Krishna or Allah or Buddha or Christ, whatever. Because he is the provider of all. We come in this world with nothing. We go out with nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Whatever
basic.
we have in between, or whatever we don't have in between, is not ours anyway. We assume a false role by thinking we own it or it's mine. And listen, check out a song I wrote a few years ago. It's on the Let It Be album, but not now. You can check it out at home. It's called I, Me, Mine.
Mhm.
You think about I am this, I do that, I do this. It me, mine, mine. That's why I've just tried to get beyond the I or the me or the mine, which is really selfish and ego and is not our real self. Our real self is really just pure spirit, full of knowledge and everything, but we just have hidden it from ourselves by our association with material energy, right?
That was heavy, George.
It is heavy, but it's so simple, and it's so simple. All you have to do is call on the Lord, chant his name, and just, even if you don't believe, it's the sound of the name. I didn't believe at first.
Do you know Reverend Ike?
Reverend Ike? No, but I know Lord Buckley. Do you
you?
know Lord Buckley? Willie the Shake, William Shakespeare?
Oh, yeah.
Hipsters, flipsters, and finger-popping daddies, knock me thy lobes. I come to lay Caesar out, not to hip you to him. The bad jazz that a cat blows wails long after he's cut out. So don't put Caesar down. To swing or not to swing, Levi, that is the hang-up.
All right, George, this has really been a weird interview, man. This has really been wacko, but it's been fun because I don't think anybody's ever interviewed you like this before in your life.
No.
You know that?
And they never will again.
Yeah, I know. I can dig it, man.
Dig it.
Hey, have a good trip.
And listen, also, I'd like to add on to that if any of you want to help me make a few hits out of This Is the Place I Love by Splinter on the Dark Horse record label and Shankar Family and Friends album and the single I Am Missing You, that would be great. I'd like that because, it costs a lot of money. I mean, even on the Splinter album, even if we sell 5 million copies, it won't cover the cost of brandy we drank making it.
Doesn't matter. It's all fun.
It's good fun anyway.
When you're having
so-
fun, time really flies and money doesn't count.
Right, so...
Tom?
God bless you, Levi.
You want to say goodbye to the people?
Thank you, Levi.
Okay, Tom. Everybody say goodbye. Let's 1, 2, 3, and let's say goodbye, and I'm getting out
To
of here.
Houston, good night.
Ready?
Houston, God
1,
bless you all.
2, 3.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
KLOL, Houston.